with the brand name Bema Insuo, Ernest Entry, a tertiary student, works hard to fund his education by hawking sachet water. Despite the hot weather and intense traffic in Accra, he does this clad in full suit, holding an executive bag and a serving tray. I guess he puts his money in the executive bag and he uses the tray to serve the water. So that is the story of Ernest Entry. I think it's an inspiring story. If you take a copy of the Mirror, page 6 and page 27, the full story of same is there. All right, so let me move on to the Spectator. And Spectator is very used to putting up beautiful ladies with their nice dresses on their front page. Today is no exception. There's one there, and it says, "Look classy with red outfits." And so stories on page 7. If you want to know the different red outfits that Spectator, the weekend companion, is putting out, you might have to grab a copy of it. Okay, so the other stories here. Wasosa 78, that is the 78th group, donate dining tables to alma mater. Okay, so good to hear that. Let all the other alma maters do same. It will help the schools. Sustain abuse or substance abuse at port. GPHA warns casual workers. And Doc, this is a very disturbing story. And you know, the casual workers are those who do all the loading and offloading. Is quite a hard labor kind of work. It's intensive. And so some of them are used to using certain substances that help them to be able to do those jobs. Now, the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority has moved to curb the abuse of drugs or substance among casual workers on its premises, warning corporates to stay away from the port when high. And so people get high so that they can do the jobs that they are doing. I'm trying to fish out from the story if there is any mention of specific drugs that they are abusing. So I'm still scanning through to see whether I will find that. I'm not seeing that through the story, but obviously we do know that from this story there is some level of substance abuse. At least I've worked in the ports, around the ports some time back, and I think I saw some of these things where people have some kind of snuffs they are sniffing and some kind of things just so that they are high, they get some kind of strength, they can do that kind of intensive labor work, and then after that they go and cool off.
Yeah, I think it's something it cuts across not just the port. I mean, even among drivers, there has been this undocumented discussion that most drivers are used to taking energy drinks, you know, and here, I mean, in context, not all energy drinks are that safe, but then they used to take energy drinks so that they can go extra miles by driving, you know, without getting tired, without having to take the needed break, and then
I realized that. Okay, yeah, so it's quite an interesting development from the Spectator story, and this is something that is worth following. Okay, so Daily Graphic is the next paper. It says that first sex nightmare for youth study reveals, and this story is quite an interesting story. It's on page 6 of the Daily Graphic, and it's actually talking about a survey that was conducted which shows that young people who told their stories of the experiences they had as far as their first sexual encounter is concerned. And the truth of the matter is that most of these young ladies who were interviewed, their first sex encounters were as a result of rape. So quite a disturbing statistic. Stories on page 6. If you get a copy of the Daily Graphic, you can get the full details. Changes in majority leadership. I never saw this coming. Or I never saw this day coming. Afenyo Markins. And Afenyo Markins is the new leader, majority leader in the House. And he says that he never saw this coming. And he was speaking on the floor of Parliament, more like his acceptance speech after getting sworn in, after taking his position as the new majority leader. On Tuesday, when President Akufo-Addo goes to Parliament to present the State of the Nation address, there will be a new majority leader who will be receiving the president. Interesting. So Daily Guide is the last paper I have, and it says that Ambassador Gina Blay, others named in Baumier's manifesto committees, and Ambassador Gina Blay is Ghana's ambassador to Germany, And we all know that she's a former editor of the Daily Graphic. I don't know whether she's still the editor, but she's a former editor of Daily Guide, I should say. All right, so the other story is here. MPA stops sale of Sentio refinery products. And story comes to a picture of Mustafa Hamid. Mustafa Hamid is the CEO of the Ghana National Petroleum Authority. And the lead story here, okay, let me do this one before the lead story. Efua Asantua misses out on Singaton record. And so that's some kind of a sad news for the people of Ghana, because we're hoping that after the sacrifices that she made, she would beat the record. But the Guinness Book of Records are saying that per their analysis and their checks, she was not able to beat the record. And so that's sad, but the try was still worth it. Afenyo Markins is majority leader. Okay, so that story comes the picture of Afenyo Markins, more like showing respect to the outgone majority leader, Osechi Mensah Bonsu, by saying, thank you for handing over to me and thank you for your leadership. Okay, so that's how the front pages of the newspapers are looking at. And we're going straight into our studio discussion, and to tell you that Mr. Kwame Jantua is a member of the Convention People's Party. He is a legal he's not a practitioner now, but he's a lawyer, and he's also what else are you, Grant?
Okay.
It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah. It's okay.
So, Mr. Jantua, good morning.
Good morning.
And welcome.
Thank you. You're looking smart this morning.
Thank you. I'm trying. Okay. And then Dr. Bano, Dr. Frank Bano. Dr. Frank Bano is an economist. He used to lecture in South Africa. Are you still a lecturer there?
Yes, please.
Oh, you are still? Okay.
Yes.
He's an economist. He's a lecturer in South Africa. What's the university? University
of Johannesburg.
University of Johannesburg.
School of Economics.
School of Economics.
Yeah, so I'm still a post-doctoral fellow there.
Okay.
Yes. So technically I'm still by there.
He is a...
Yes, my good friend.
I think he speaks a lot of sense.
I've known him for
That's my
quite a
personal
while.
opinion.
You know, Lawyer Jantua is my former boss, right?
Yes,
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Where?
Yeah. When I was working at ISODEC,
yes,
he was the steering committee member, so I've known him for
yes.
almost like more than 12 years.
Yes.
Hmm.
You didn't see us hugging that. So you know, let's say more than 10 years. Yeah, that was 24. Yeah, more than 10 years we've not met.
Wow.
2009, from there I knew.
Yes,
Mm.
yes.
That's a long time.
Yeah, when we're doing the
Okay.
baseline
Yes,
survey on the
yes,
oil and gas
gas,
discovery in
yeah.
the western region.
Yeah, Bill.
It's all good. It's all good. It's all good. It's all good. Okay, so it's good to have you, and I'm happy that at least Asasi Radio helped to reunite the two of you. Hopefully today you are not fighting.
Ni hasn't come.
Yes, this is going to come.
Ni hasn't come.
He's late. He needs to answer some questions
Okay.
from us. Why his party hasn't outdoored its campaign team? Why they haven't named the manifesto team? We want to ask all those questions. They are making Dr. Bawumia take a lead. It's not nice like that, because they should have
Not to
taken the
Swift.
lead.
It's not to the Swift.
Okay, all right. So let's start our conversation today with the happenings in Parliament, and
We
then
even haven't named our flag bearer, have we?
yes, CPP. He means CPP.
Yes, we haven't.
Oh,
But do you have a national executive committee?
Yes, we do.
They are interim.
Yes,
They are interim.
yes, we have.
Okay. When are you going to have substantive?
I don't know, but you can ask them.
What does the constitution say? You should go to Congress. What?
Yes,
What?
go to Congress.
You have to go to Congress to
Yes,
do that.
Yes, to do that.
Okay. Who is the
But
party chairman now?
Sure, it's still Sapon Kumang. She's still there.
Say again.
She's still there.
Who?
Sapon Kumang Kuma.
He's still the chairman.
Yeah, she's still the chairman.
Nice.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Trying to
All
resolve the issues.
CPP, you can't follow.
We can't fall. The Nkrumah's groupings can't fall. As I keep saying, it's not the CPP. CPP can be the head, but it's the Nkrumah's groupings.
Mm.
One side of the Nkrumah's groupings cannot, rise like that. We all have to come together. I've told them that we have to come together as one group.
I think in the first parliament, second parliament, or third parliament, you used to have a representation.
Yes.
CPP.
Yeah.
I think up to Samia Nkrumah.
Sami Nkrumah, yes.
I think she was the last CPP
Yes,
person.
The last groupings of the CPP.
The CPP in
Yes.
Parliament, and that was
You see, I keep saying we are splintered. PNC, this. We need to stop all that and come together as one, get a strong leader, and start building the Nkrumah's groupings.
And I think during President Kufuor's time, there was a deliberate effort to help the CPP.
He tried that one. We give it to him. President Kufuor was keen on making sure that the CPP can come back up. At least, if for nothing at all, it's one of the oldest parties, and he felt that it is something that would help the country. But unfortunately, he weren't able to sustain it.
Doc, what do you think about CPP issues? That's not part of the subject matter, but it has come up, so let's talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, like lawyer Jantua rightly put it. I mean,
okay, so Doc, I'm going to ask my technical guy to come and pull the microphone a bit closer to you. Okay, yes, so that's fine.
So like lawyer Jantua said, I mean, a house divided against itself shall never stand, right? And over the years, that has been the bane of the CPP, right? I mean, some of us, when we were growing up as kids, we knew CPP, we knew Akokokoko, right? That was it then. I quite remember those days. My dad used to attend meetings in Obuasi when I was a kid, and I remember very well he used to carry me along even before we all got indoctrinized into different political parties. So that was what we got to know. But then mobilization has always been a problem with the CPP, right? I mean, if you look at the drive of the NPP or the NDC, you don't see the same energy from the CPP. And I think Lawyer Jantua here he's been a long-standing senior member of the party. So I think he will be in the best position to actually know what has actually been the problem with the CPP. For example, one of the oldest party in the political history of Ghana doesn't have a representation in parliament, and that is quite sad. I mean, it doesn't matter where you belong to, but at least it deepens our democracy. If you take a country like South Africa, for example, I mean, aside the ANC, aside the DA, aside the EFF, you also find smaller parties that were even formed post 1996 that have representation in the South African parliament. But then when you come to Ghana, it seems like the NPP and the NDC have taken the dominant position whereby you see the other parties lagging behind. So, for example, the CPP, you see the PNC. I'm not sure PNC has a representation in parliament. I'm not so sure.
So all Nkrumah's groupings?
Yes, none of them. But then the issue comes to about, the CPP issue is just like, I always mirror it to that of the so-called African Union and African Unity, right? So it's about who leads. I think that has been the problem with the CPP. Not the CPP like a lawyer put it, but that has been the problem with the pro-Nkrumah allies, right? It's about who leads. Okay, so for example, if PNC and CPP are supposed to merge and the other smaller parties who also say they believe in Nkrumahism and they believe in the ideology of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. So the idea is then who leads us? So that has always been the bone of contention. So if I can't be the leader, then obviously we can't be together. So that has been the problem. So sometimes I ask myself, is it really the ideology of Nkrumah you guys stand for? Or it's about you guys trying to, pursue your own personal interest. And for me, I see that the personal interest supersedes the so-called ideology. That is just a catchphrase I think they all hide underneath to just propagate their own interest. Because you saw someone like Dr. Hassan Ayariga, he was a PNC, right? He touted the ideologies of Nkrumah. But then when he went to Congress and he lost out, he went out and formed his own political party. So sometimes it creates a lot of impressions about the members of or the people who say we believe in the ideology of Nkrumah. So for me, I think it's not just about Nkrumahism. I think it's about people hiding behind Nkrumahism to pursue their personal agenda. I mean, how can you have a party like the CPP? And I stand to be corrected with lawyer here. The only daughter that we know of the late first president of the Republic of Ghana, Honorable Samia, more or less, I don't see her to even having anything to do with the CPP.
I think she attempted to be the party chairman Was
She
she
was the
successful?
party
Yes,
chairman.
she was
She
successful.
was the party chairman.
No, but
she-
currently in this
she's left
race,
the-
what's the
she's-
position in the CPP?
she's left-
That's what I'm.
she's
No,
left
I
the
think
party.
she's left the party.
She's that is what I'm trying to put across. I mean, that is his father's legacy, right? So if nothing at all, she should be one of the main pioneers of the ideologies of Nkrumah. She should be the driving force behind the CPP. But we don't see it that way. So actually what has happened? So for me, one of the things I see is that there is no unity within the CPP. Maybe
within the Nkrumah's groupings.
exactly.
You see, the problem I have with that particular issue, the Nkrumah's grouping itself, is the fact that Nkrumah was a whole. Why have we divided him?
Exactly.
He was a whole. He was never a divided person. He was very whole. And so we have the situation we have because it looks like some people after him have decided to divide him into many parts.
Yeah.
But is it?
And we forget that it's the sacrifice that is most important. It's not all of us who will be able to be leaders, but some of us will have to sacrifice for others to take the mantle and run with it. We don't understand that.
No, so you see, Buzia, Dankwa, Dombo tradition is a formidable united front, irrespective of their individual differences as a political party. But then when you pick the ideology that was propagated by a single person, you have the followers not able to unite in the name of that person. So it paints a picture, right? If you are looking at a tradition of three different people coming together to merge to form the new patriotic party, and it has stood the test of time, irrespective of the trials it has faced, the political party has faced. But then when you come to the CPP that believes in just one person, they are not able to unite behind the ideology of that person. And for me, that says a lot. And someone like Samia not being in parliament and not holding any position in the CPP also connotes a lot of things, you know. But you see, the whole thing is that you want to win political power. That is the ultimate goal, right? And I keep saying that it's just like football. We play with 11 men, okay? Once you get a red card, it affects the whole team. But you still have 10 men, but because one person left the field, it's so psychologically it affects the whole team. And I think that is what has happened to the CPP over the years post 1992, right?
Okay. So yes, CPP matters will always come up, and we'll talk about them later. We'll continue to talk about
of the fabric.
Yes. I am actually hoping that they'll be able to put themselves together and at least have some 2 seats, if not from anywhere.
Yes, I agree.
Western region.
At least
You
in
know,
Crawford,
Yes,
and
where
Mbele,
where
Afasime,
Kwame Nkrumah,
you know?
where we all trace him. At least that is, for example, you go to a place like Wenchi, which is supposed to be a stronghold of the MPP because of Buzia.
Yeah.
And then the current sitting MP there is an NDC MP because there was a lot of confusion
fashions,
and fashions.
Yeah.
And so the MPP lost the seat. But there are some traditional seats because of the tradition that the party belongs to. That seat must be more like a bona fide property of that
But you know,
particular
things
party.
have changed, though. Things have changed. Mindsets have changed. The children and people of today are not the children and people of that time. So if you do not train them in that kind of line, it becomes difficult for you to hold a seat that is traditionally yours. It does. But influence, the kind of influence that individual too has within that locality, can also help for you to keep that.
Anyway, you know, it was interesting to see that in the Volta region, MPP could get a seat in a place like Hohoe.
Yes. So it's possible.
Yes, so I can understand what you're saying. Okay, so majority shakeup, majority issues. Afenyo Markins, I'll come to you, Doc, first.
Okay.
Afenyo Markins takes up the position of majority leader after Oseche Mensah Bonsu, who has been in that role, if not for anything at all, the last 7 years. In fact, the entirety of the Akufo-Addo administration, he has been the majority leader. I'm talking about Oseche Mensah Bonsu. He has served he was once deputy leader. He once served as whip, but he has a cumulative period of 23 years serving at the parliamentary front.
Is it 23 or 28?
23, at least from the calculation.
From the second to the 7th parliament.
Yes.
Yeah,
He
which
came
is-
into parliament in 1997, right?
Yes,
Yes.
the second parliament.
The second parliament.
Yes.
Parliament.
Yeah. So that's about. So if you add 24, then we approximately say 24 years.
Yes.
Right? but then he couldn't see the leadership midway to 2024.
Yes.
And he's been the majority leader.
So he was
for
first
how long?
Majority leader. I believe he served as a majority leader from Akufo-Addo's time. He was deputy majority leader. I can clarify that, but I think in the previous administration, at some point he was minority leader.
Yes.
So during the Mills Mahama time, he was minority leader.
Yes.
And then when Akufo-Addo now comes on, he becomes the majority leader.
That was why people were wondering if we should keep him on as the majority leader or we should
or
change
not.
him.
So at least for that 16-year period, so the whole of the Mills Mahama administration, which was 8 years, and then the whole of Akufo-Addo's administration, which is now in his 8th year, which is a 16-year period, he has served as minority leader and majority leader. And then prior to that, he was chief whip. When he first came into Parliament, 97, right down to 2000 through Kufuor's time and all that. All right, so Doc, the first question really is what you make of the switch in leadership, particularly at the top, because if you look at it carefully, 2 others maintained their position, and then 2 or 3 new faces. So the deputy majority leader rises up to become majority leader, then a new person is introduced into the deputy position. Whip and first deputy whip maintain their position, and then second deputy whip comes in as new. So you would say that there's been 3 changes.
Honorably, they are taking the ministerial
appointment.
Yeah.
So you see that, okay, so there were 3 faces out of the 5 who have been maintained. Unlike the other side, which is the minority side, where virtually all the people were removed. I think the 4 were removed, and only 1 person maintained his post. So I just want your thoughts on what you make of the changes, comparing it to what has happened in the NDC in the past.
Thank you, and a very good morning to your listeners. I would like to begin my statement by congratulating the Honorable Afenyo Markins on his new position as the majority leader of the ruling party, the New Patriotic Party. And I mean, if you take Honorable Afenyo Markins as a human being, I mean, you can't take anything away from him. I mean, his personal relationship, I have not had any direct contact or discussion with him before, but then I know people who have that personal relationship with him, and then they've told me so much about how he is. And I mean, the fact that when you go to Afutu, he is hailed as to tell you that, look, this is a man of integrity. This is a very humane person, and also hardworking on top of that, and he takes his work seriously. I mean, if you want to take the most industrious member of parliament in Ghana, you can never count and leave Honorable Afenyo Markins. That is, if you are considering both the minority and majority side, you can never take him out. He will be in the first 3. I mean, that is a fact, because when you go, I have been to his constituency on several occasions, and when you go there, people whisper his name. So that connotes something that this is a man, when given the job, he will be able to deliver, and I have no doubt that he'll be able to deliver. So now, coming back to the whole leadership changes, I think it has been forthcoming for some weeks now. We heard that there was going to be a shake-up. That was the word that was used. We heard that there was going to be a shake-up in the majority front, which I think led to the majority coming out with a press conference. I think that was somewhere last week, if I'm right, to diffuse that information that was circulating in the system, that there wasn't going to be any major shake-up within the majority front, and then they had never even had a discussion on that subject matter. But lo and behold, I think a day or so after their press, then we heard that so the manifesto committee came out, and we saw the Honorable Osei Mensah Bonsu being the chair for the New Patriotic Party, that's Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia's manifesto committee. So then that raised further eyebrows. Look, then there could be some truth in the rumors making rounds, and it wasn't surprising enough to also hear the news that the Honorable Member of Parliament for Swame, popularly called as Swami Mugabe, had tendered him his resignation letter as majority leader of the New Patriotic Party in Parliament. So, I mean, there has been the back and forth discussion regarding, I mean, in Ghana and in politics, there will always be the conspiracy theory, right? I mean, there's always be that speculation here and there about the drivers that could have made him leave the position, and he did. But I mean, to date, he himself never stated the reason categorically why he left the position. He only made it known that he has stepped down as leader of the majority side in Parliament. So I will leave it as it is, because I don't have any information contrary to what has been put out there. So I wouldn't want to speculate anything yet or join the speculation being bundled around. But then I think in the whole, yes, if you are considering the experience and the expertise of Honorable Osei Mensah Bonsu, without a fact, I would acknowledge that, yes, he will be dearly missed, not just in the majority side, but then in Parliament, the affairs of Parliament.
I think we've seen the minority leader, Keith Latofosin, also eulogizing him for his great contributions to Parliament.
Obviously. So you see, so in many times in our political dispensation, there has been the talk about the fact that people have stayed on for far too long and that they need to move out for the young ones to come in. I am a young one, obviously, but then, so let's say considering Lawyer Jantua, for example, I have known Lawyer Jantua, say, for more than 12 years. I know his depth, I know what he can do. So if you have someone like Lawyer Jantua in Parliament, the fact that I'm young is not a preconditioned criteria to say that lawyer must leave for me to come and take over, right? So if you consider the American Senate, for example, okay, if you are looking at the American Senate, so you could see that you have someone like Chuck Grassley, who has been a senator since 1981 till date. 1981, that is 43 years and counting. He's been a senator, a Republican senator in the Senate of the U.S. If you take Mitch McConnell, right? If I got the name right, Mitch McConnell, he has been a senator for the Republicans for 39 good years. So obviously, if you are trying to mimic the model of the Western world and they are keeping people for 40 years, 39 years and over, then it tells you that experience is quite critical, right? That's why even in a normal job interview, when you go, they'll ask you that, what experience do you have? Because you should have some prior knowledge to what you are vying to do, because that is what we expect that you can leverage on to execute your new roles. So experience is very, very critical. So for me, I am not really a fan of those who join the discussion that, look, someone has been in Parliament for, let's say, 24 years and then he needs to bid farewell and leave the scene for young ones to come. But then obviously, like I said, if you are comparing it to the NDC, I think there's a big contrast here. I mean, the NDC's one was more or less, quote unquote, a coup, right? If I'm permitted to use that word. That was actually...
I think that is how it has been referred to in most circles.
That was a coup d'etat, right? So because, I mean, people were caught by surprise, and then and there was a whole lot of confusion surrounding what happened, because you first had the party, right? The NDC party, I think if the general secretary actually issuing a communique saying that so and so people have been withdrawn, and then these are the new people who are supposed to take charge in Parliament. Then the leadership then also comes out to refute the communique or the letter that was released and say that no, we are still leaders in Parliament. And there was this back and forth until it got to a point in time that, like I said, it's a coup. So it's like the military now comes in and point gun at you and say, hey, will you leave or not? Then obviously our friend lawyer Haruna Idrisu had to bow out, and you could see from his body language when he left the scene that he was not really enthused about what happened. But then if you look at what happened within the MPP, so like you said, it cannot be mimicked to a coup, because you are looking at a case whereby about 5 or so people of the previous leadership, I mean, Honorable Afenyo Markins was the deputy majority leader.
So he's climbed up.
So he's just climbed up. So it's not the case that Honorable Ato Forson he wasn't the deputy, right? He was not the deputy.
He was a senior member, but not
a ranking member, right?
Yes.
So he was just plugged, and then they put him there because, but I don't want to go into the politics of it. That is also another issue that maybe we'll look at on another show. But clearly, like I said, Honorable Osei Mensah Bosu will be missed by Parliament. Looking at someone who has served in Parliament from the second to the seventh Parliament that we have now, who has served as a minority leader when the New Patriotic Party was in opposition, and through his industrious contributions and arguments, it helped one way or the other the party to actually wrestle power from the National Democratic Congress in 2016, and then the party comes to power. President Nana Akufo-Addo is sworn in 2017, and then he becomes the majority leader of the party, and he also becomes the majority leader, and he had another post. Is it the
Minister for Parliamentary Affairs?
Minister for Parliamentary Affairs as well.
So what is missing really is that we don't know if because Afenyo-Markin's appointment does not come with the parliamentary affairs aspect. So we don't know whether the parliamentary ministry is scrapped. It's a question that we need to interrogate, because Osei Mensah Bosu resigns as majority leader, and that will also mean that he would have resigned as Minister for Parliamentary Affairs.
Yeah.
So is Afenyo-Markin becoming the Minister for Parliamentary Affairs, or Parliamentary Affairs Ministry is technically scrapped, and that we just maintain the position majority leader? That is something that we need to get clarity on. I believe my producers will work out so we can get clarity on that.
Thank you so much, Wilberforce. Yeah, so obviously, with such a person leaving the scene, as I said in my previous submission, it's really going to leave a gap. But then, as I said also, Honorable Afenyo-Markin is someone that I think, I like I said, I don't know him personally, but from afar I have observed his submissions in Parliament. I have observed his arguments in Parliament. I have observed his positions on issues, and you see that in most of his arguments there is clarity. He isn't the type of person who does the extreme partisan arguments in Parliament. I stand to be corrected. That is my own observation that I'm speaking from, right? I'm not speaking from someone's own observation, but that is my own perspective. If you look at the bills so far that have been, especially this seventh Parliament that he's engaged in, and if you clearly reason through his positions, you see that these are non-partisan positions. They seem to be more technical and pragmatic positions. You can disagree with him or you can agree with him, but then that doesn't take away from the fact that the man is someone who is up to the task. And I have no doubt in my mind that Honorable Afenyo-Markin will be able to fill the shoes and the void left by the former leader Osei Mensah Bosu.
Okay, so let me come to you, Ms. Jantwa. And Ms. Jantwa, I'm just reading a story that has been published on asasiradio.com, where Afenyo-Markin is expressing gratitude to all those who have been part of his success story. And he makes mention of very interesting names. So he makes mention of names such as Benjamin Kumbo. You remember Benjamin Kumbo? Benjamin Kumbo is a member of the NDC. And he talks about how that Benjamin Kumbo helped him and advised him and supported him in his early days in Parliament. He also talks about names such as Hackman Owusu-Agyeman, who also helped him, Johnny Jekum Kufuor, Stephen Asamoah Boateng, also coming in to support him somewhere along the line and offering him help when it was most needed. So he talks about a lot of things and a lot of people. Osei Mensah Bosu himself is mentioned and all that. But quickly, from where you sit as a political watcher and an analyst, what do you make of the changes that have been effected in Parliament? Is it timely? Is it politically correct ahead of an election such as the 2024 elections?
Good morning to our listeners. And I'm not a political watcher. I'm a politician. Two different things.
Okay. So
different things.
Politician and political analyst. I've changed it.
Whether I'm an analyst, that is debatable. But I thrive in the political space. I thrived in it for years, even from childhood. So let me first congratulate Afenyo-Markin. He's a counsel. He's a learned brother. I congratulate him for where he's found himself today. His postures and his demeanor and the way he does things could change because of the office that he's been put in today. I think he was an obvious choice. He's been very vocal. He's been able, to some degree, express his thoughts and banter with the opposition in the absence of the majority leader, sometimes when he's not in parliament. And to his party, he's been a credible person in handling the role as deputy majority leader. So we congratulate him for that. It's no easy feat. And he's learned under the tutelage of Osechi Mensah-Bonsu. I'm sure they've had numerous discussions, both on the legal side, on the parliamentary side, on the political side, on the constituency side. They've learned a lot. And he is a constituency member for Efutu. And Osechi Mensah-Bonsu is the constituency member for Swami. So I'm sure a lot of back and forth and exchanging of ideas have gone through. So he stands equipped to handle the job. And I don't think the argument is on Afenyomakin. I don't think so. He's now coming into the seat. Whether we're going to judge him by his actions as deputy leader, that one is left to be seen. But I don't think he would be, he should stay in that light. He should mark himself up to do greater things, because that particular seat as majority leader is a hot seat. For me, the challenge has been with the abruptness of Osechi Mensah-Bonsu's leaving. Why was it so abrupt? That's one. Two, we are told that his announcement of his leaving was done at the Flagstaff House during a meeting with MPP members. And then I asked myself the question, he's the leader, majority leader in parliament. He would have a special relationship with the president. I was a bit surprised that he announced his resignation in the midst of colleagues and rather didn't go to the president before coming to announce his.
So the meeting that was held at the presidency was at the behest of the president.
Yes.
So the president invited the majority caucus.
Yes.
And met with them.
Yes.
It was after that meeting that,
yes,
in the presence of the president and
yes,
his colleague,
yes,
majority members,
yes,
he announced that he was going to step down.
But with situations like that, won't you have a one-on-one with the president first?
I believe that took place prior to the meeting with the majority caucus.
It took place.
Yes.
We don't know that.
Yes.
We don't know that.
But I said I believe it took place.
No, it's not you believe. Did it take place? Did it take place?
Well, yes. So it took place.
It took place.
Yes.
Okay. If it took place, then that is fine. So it wasn't a surprise to the president, because for me, it wouldn't have been right to announce something like that when the president should be the first to know before anybody knows. But if you say it did take place, then I guess that is okay. So then it kind of clears the abruptness of the announcement. Then you look at the process in terms of how a majority leader or how a minority leader should be selected. And we've heard the debates throughout the week as to whether it is the party that should be the one who puts in the leader, or it should be done through the standing orders. In politics, we say the party rules supreme. Parliament is a unique establishment. So the processes in Parliament are akin to Parliament and its members. So should the standing orders of Parliament include how a majority or minority leader is selected? Should it be from the parliamentary caucus itself? Because in some jurisdictions, the parliamentary caucus are the one who elects their leader. Or should it be the party that now chooses a leader to run the affairs of Parliament for the party? Some say that really and truly, ideally, it should be a discussion, a conversation between the two bodies, the party and the caucus in Parliament. But then I ask the question, on the NDC side, did that happen? Because on the NDC side, it looked as if it didn't happen. It looked as if it was imposed.
Okay, so both parties have constitutional provisions as to how their parliamentary leadership is to be appointed. So, for example, the MPP in Article 14.2 of their constitution says that the election of the leader, deputy leader, chief whip, deputy chief whip of the parliamentary group shall be done by the National Council. That's what the MPP constitution says. On the side of the NDC constitution says that the National Executive Council, which is the party leadership, party chairman, the NEC, is the body that will do the appointment or selection of parliamentary leadership. And that is what we saw in the NDC time, where Asiedu Ketia, together with Fifi Kweti actually signed the letter, General Secretary, addressed directly to the Speaker, announcing the changes. But the MPP side is the National Council. The National Council is the second highest decision-making body of the party.
Yes.
So the MPP side, the power is taken away from the National Executive Committee, which is the NEC, and it is given to the National Council, which is a much higher body. But obviously, the NEC members are part of the National Council. So that's what I can say about in terms of the appointing authorities.
So Parliament has no role to play in there in terms of the standing orders.
So
if that is the case, what the Speaker then came to say fits into what you're saying.
Yeah, so if you look at the previous standing orders, the one that has been thrown out, technically speaking, that one said that the parliament, the caucus, whether majority or minority, will have to do the appointment of their leadership with the party.
With
the party.
That's the operative word.
Yes.
With
the party. But the new standing order says that the majority or minority caucus in the Parliament shall designate somebody to be their leader. So yes, that's the confusion that came about, and that is why the Speaker brought clarity by saying that it is not possible for the majority or minority caucus in Parliament to name their leadership without consulting their parties. But the new standing orders doesn't make mention of the parties.
What does the word designate mean?
That one, the professor, the lecturer here has to teach us that.
What does the word designate mean? That you choose.
Yes.
You choose the leader. That's where the confusion came in. So when they were now drafting the new standing orders, did they not envisage that such a word can create confusion? Knowing that it is the party that is supposed to choose the leader? And did they take into consideration the party's constitution as to what it entails to put a leader in place? Did they? So they need to go and re-amend that particular clause in the standing orders.
In fact, the call actually is that the political parties first have to amend their own constitutions to fit to the new standing orders, or Parliament has to readjust its standing orders in terms of the appointment of leadership. I'm told that they are going for some retreat, the MPs, some retreat about the standing orders and all that. So maybe it will come up.
Yes.
But either way, there must be an amendment. Either
way,
the standing orders are being amended to add the political parties to play a part, or the political parties are amending their constitutions to add the majority caucus as being part of the decision makers when it comes to appointing their leadership.
But Wilberforce, the decision has already been made by the statement by the speaker. It's already been made.
Yes, in terms of
who elects.
Yes.
Who designates?
So you are thinking that the amendment will rather have to come from
Parliament.
Okay.
It's simple.
Okay.
But I'm reading a brief here that the Member of Parliament for Swami, Mr. Oseche Mensah Bonsu, has been retained as the Minister of Parliamentary Affairs.
So that's what we're talking
yes.
about.
Graphic Online.
Okay.
So he has been retained.
So I'll get clarity from on
it's
that.
on Graphic Online.
Okay.
So he's been retained as parliamentary member of
Minister for Parliamentary Affairs. Okay.
Because he was holding that dual position as majority leader in the Minister of
Parliamentary Affairs. So it looks as if that particular situation has been.
So what it also means is that probably the majority leader now is going to still have to work with him.
Yes.
Because Minister for Parliamentary Affairs, you are more like you are the one who takes care of government business in Parliament. So the majority leader will still have to liaise with him to be able to continue to do government business in Parliament.
But they work together, don't they?
Yes.
They work together. So don't let us create a situation there that now brings all sorts of unquestionable answers and questions in there. They work together. They've been together for a number of years, and I think they understand themselves. Now, looking at the others who were also named. My own, what's her name? The lady. Asukwa. She's a relative. So, will they be able to stand the test of time? Because I have never heard Honorable APJ speak in Parliament. I've never heard her speak in Parliament. But she is his deputy.
Yeah.
Will she be able to stand the test of time? And the interesting thing there is that she's a woman. She's been given a pride of place to promote what women can do. And I hope she would be able to stand the test of time to show that she's capable of handling that position. The same way Afenyomarkin himself, as deputy, showed that he was capable of handling that position. When Afenyomarkin was put in place, a lot of people weren't too sure whether he had the wherewithal to work in that position. But he proved himself well. So let's hope that she would be able to stand the test of time. Afenyo, what do you call it? What's his name? Oseche Mensah Bonsu's shoes in that role are huge. And you could see with his arguments sometimes, he doesn't even need to read book. Just standing on his feet, arguing a certain position. He doesn't need any reference. He goes to show the experience that he built in doing so.
I think that his strength probably was on the fact that he always stuck to the standing orders
in
Parliament.
He stuck to the standing orders in Parliament. And he was a hard worker. He worked hard and understood what it meant. The only thing that I tend to be sorry for is the fact that you see a lot of parliamentarians who have massive experience on both sides, learned the rudiments of Parliament, but there's nobody within Parliament to help train the backbenchers who will be coming onto the front bench with time. There's no institution within Parliament that helps that training. And so new people come in and they have to learn on the job. And learning on the job, you can make so many mistakes. I think Parliament should really think about how they train young people who are in Parliament, who even have the desire to come into Parliament, to teach our people, especially in our parties, what it means to be in Parliament. And again, looking at the fact that, and this is a very challenging issue that we are grappling with, the fact that the president should choose quite a number of parliamentarians into the executive.
The constitutional requirement.
The constitutional requirement
of ministers from parliament.
We should look at it because it is said that it looks as if the executive have huge influence in parliament from the executive side. Again, the party coming in to choose a leader has also a huge influence. And I would say there are two sides of the executive in parliament, not giving parliament the space and laxity to exercise their own processes and regulations. So I think we should be able to put together somebody within parliament that trains, and we should look at that principle of taking majority of the members in parliament into the executive, because really it does not create strict separation of powers as we want it practiced. Because people will come in there, people will stand for parliament, come in with the idea of, if I'm vocal outside and I'm now in parliament, the president can choose me as to come into the executive. And I think there is a contradiction. Where is their allegiance? Is their allegiance to parliament or is their allegiance to the executive? And you find that most of parliamentarians who have also got roles in the executive, the allegiance is more to the executive than to parliament. And I think it's an area that we should look at.
One of the interesting things, and I'll come to ask you about another question, but one of the interesting things that people have said is that if you look at the two major contenders in the coming election, the NDC's Mahama says that he will rule with 60 ministers. Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, the vice president and also presidential candidate of the New Patriotic Party, says he will do that with 50. Now, if the constitution requires that you should do half of your MPs, of your ministers from parliament, what it means is that if Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia wins the election, he will need to appoint just 25 persons who are MPs to his cabinet or to his ministerial list. 25 MPs. If the NDC wins, they are going to have to appoint 30. That is half of what they say they want to do. So gradually, the numbers are currently President Akufo-Addo. Most of his ministers are MPs.
Yes.
I think it's about 70% to so of them are sitting MPs. So that is a contrast. He's gone beyond the half, the 50% threshold. But I'm just saying that with what we are seeing and coming up in the elections, if they are going to go that route, what it means is that they are going to be appointing half of their ministers, 25 and 30.
Maybe we should look at the 79 model that we used. In 79, when the quasi-CPP came into power, if you were an MP and you wanted to be a minister, you resign as being an MP, or you don't take the position on the executive. I think we should look at
I think we can just amend the constitution.
Yes,
okay, so
let me read Osei Mensah Bonsu's appointment as Parliamentary Affairs Minister. It says, the Member of Parliament for Swami, Mr. Osei Mensah Bonsu, has been retained as the Minister for Parliamentary Affairs. He resigned from the post as Majority Leader in Parliament on Wednesday, February 21st, 2024. The National Executive Committee of the governing New Patriotic Party held an emergency meeting in Accra on Friday, 23rd February 2024, to announce the changes made to the leadership of the majority side. At the said meeting, the NEC decided to retain Mr. Che Mensah Bonsu as Minister for Parliamentary Affairs. The NEC also confirmed the MP for Efutu, Alexander Afenyo-Markin, as the new majority leader, with Patricia PJ MP for Asokwa as the deputy majority leader.
I find it difficult because it is not the NEC that appoints ministers. So I find that a little bit, it is the president that appoints ministers.
Maybe they have.
We'll find out. We'll find out.
Maybe they have had a discussion with the president. The president has given them the go-ahead.
Yes. So far, we haven't heard anything about that ministry. Yes. So it is still, as it stands now, it still remains.
Yes.
Because...
But this is on Graphic Online.
Yes.
So.
The reshuffle of the president did not mention that ministry. So we do not have any reason to say that that ministry is no longer in existence.
Well, you have the contact, so find out.
I'm saying that we do not have any reason. So, okay, Doc, let me come to you now on this same Afenyo-Markins issue. The political dynamics. Some say that the NDC currently has a minority leader from the central region. The MPP now has a majority leader who also hails from the central region. What is it about central region ahead of election 2024 that is making all our parties look to making people put people in leadership positions from the central region?
Yeah, so if you look at the data, so if you look at 2016,
this is your question.
Lawyer.
I don't see the connection anyway.
Oh, really?
Yeah, let me see the connection.
So if you look at the data, so in 2016, if you're looking at from 2016, the MPP in the central region, because your question is regards to the central region. So the MPP's flag bearer then, Nana Akufo-Addo, won the presidential elections, right? The majority in the central region. In terms of the seats, the MPP won majority of seats in the central region. But then in 2020, it was the opposite. While Nana Akufo-Addo still maintained his commanding lead as then president who was going for a second term. However, the reverse occurred in parliamentary seats within the central region. The NDC actually won majority seats in the central region compared to the NPP. So this has actually been a case. I can give you, for an instance, even in places like Asen South, where the Honorable Kennedy Agyapong is the current member of parliament. If you look at the 2020 presidential and parliamentary result, you could see that though he won the seat for the NPP, but then there was a difference, and I want to use a significant, there was a difference between the votes that he had and the votes that Nana Akufo-Addo had. In fact, Nana Akufo-Addo won more votes compared to Honorable Kennedy Agyapong in even Asen Central. So that connotes a lot. But I don't know, like you posed the question, I don't know whether the intent is to diffuse that idea, because prior to 2020, the minority leader of parliament was not from the central region, right? But yet, so the NPP lost a significant number of seats in the central region. So for me, I see it to be not really about appointing a leader who hails from the central region, but then it's about the NPP as a party getting to do the right things in the central region. For example, what has the NPP promised the people of the central region from 2016 till date, right? So you took 2016 parliamentary and presidential elections. What were the key things that were promised the people of the central region? You see, and in 2020, what again were the key things that were promised the people of the central region? Now, if you are using a tracker or you are using an indicator, okay, to measure performance and output in terms of promises made to the good people of the central region, how will the NPP score itself within the central region? That is one of the critical questions that we should be asking ourselves. And I mean, the leadership of the NPP and the majority leadership should also be asking themselves. And now that Honorable Afenyo-Markins has stepped in to fill the shoes of Honorable Osechi Mensah, so these are some of the critical things that we should be asking ourselves. So for me, I think the fact that you appoint a majority leader coming from central region does not necessarily give you that leverage that you are going to maybe retake or recover all that maybe you might have missed out or lost out in the central region. It takes more than just appointing a majority leader who hails from the central region to win the trust of the people of the central region. And I have said, like I said earlier, there has to be a systematic step. There has to be pragmatic steps. I mean, in terms of the selection of PCs, parliamentary candidates in the central region, okay? Compared to 2020, we also, what happened, okay? There was this whole noise among the leadership, the regional leadership of the NPP in the central region. And I mean, I don't have the facts at hand, so I don't really want to mention names. Okay, so there was this whole confusion, and rightly, there are, especially in Cape Coast, for example, I spoke to a few people who told me that, look, because of this person who was put there as PC for NPP, there's no way we're going to win this particular seat in Cape Coast. I forgot whether it's Cape Coast South or Cape Coast East, West or something. I mean, I had a friend who lives there who actually, prior to 2020, I was not in Ghana, I was then in South Africa, who told me, Pambla, look, this PC that you have called, and my friend also lives outside. He was telling me that he was born and bred in Cape Coast, and his father is into party politics, so he communicates with the father every day. And the father told him, Pambla, that this person that you have elected as your PC, as our PC, because the father is also a supporter of the MPP, I doubt that we're going to win the seat. And lo and behold, the MPP lost the seat. Though Nana Akufo-Addo, in terms of the presidential, won. If it had been a parliamentary seat, Nana Akufo-Addo would have been there. The parliamentary.
So it was more like skirt and blouse.
A skirt and blouse setting in the central region, and you could count the number of places within the central region that the NPP actually, Nana Akufo-Addo winning with a commanding difference, and then when it comes to the parliamentary seat, the NPP loses. I even gave you the case of the Honorable Kennedy Agyapong. I think we can refer to the data that you can see that there is a difference between the votes that Nana Akufo-Addo accumulated in Asin Central and the votes that Honorable Kennedy Agyapong accumulated. You could see that there's a marginal difference between the two. So that connotes something. Why were the people of Cape Coast willing to vote presidential for the NPP, but when it comes to parliamentary, they were skeptical in voting for the PCs of the NPP? So these are some of the things that I think as a political party by now, they should have done their homework to really unearth the intricacies and the underlying factors that actually led to this skirt and blouse, as you put it, so that going forward, such thing wouldn't repeat itself. So for me, just appointing a majority leader from the central region, for me, as I have said, I think from the data that I have seen and the data that we are all privy to, I think that is not enough grounds for you to say that, okay, because Honorable Atto-Forson, Dr. Atto-Forson, right? Okay, he's a doctor. Honorable Dr. Atto-Forson hails from the central region, and for that matter, once you appoint a majority leader who hails from the central region, then you automatically. I think it's more about the capacity of the person, right? If you look at the leadership of the majority side in Parliament now, I mean, not to undermine anyone, but then who more qualifies than Honorable Afenyo-Markins? I mean, it's arguable, right? But for me, I think there is none when it comes to filling the shoes of Honorable Osechi Mensah Bonsu than the Honorable MP for the good people of Efutu. So for me, I think time is very, very important. And once again, not to take you back, when the MPP were going to elect, I think we've had this discussion here, they are flag bearer for the 2024 general elections, and I sat here with you, Wilberforce. We had an interview and we discussed this matter. One of the issues that I raised was that time favored the vice president compared to the other flag bearer aspirants who actually wanted to delete the party. If the time that the NPP had their elections in 2023, December 2023, if it had been taken back to, let's say, about 10, 12 years ago, obviously there were certain names within who came up that would have stood the chance of becoming the flag bearer of the NPP. But if you are considering the current time and dispensation we find ourselves, then obviously you see the vice president and the now flag bearer of the NPP being the most dominant person who actually stands out tall amongst the rest. And I think that is the same case with Honorable Afenyo-Markins. So I think it's more on a competence base. That's why he got the job, not really about the fact that the NPP want to match up the NDCs. Maybe, yeah. So
Nikwapo Samoa Addo is here, and so I'm going to go to him. But to support your argument with the data, you would see that in the Asin Central, Kennedy Agyapong in 2020 pulled 19,754, representing 57.26%. and the contender from the NDC, Noreen Shiabu, had 14,747 at the parliamentary level. On the presidential, President Akufo-Addo had 21,159, which represented 61.98%, and John Mahama had 12,620, representing 36.97%. So you will see that at the presidential, President Akufo-Addo does better than
his PC,
his PC.
Even the PC of NDC does better than former President John Dramani Mahama. So that is a fact that so if you study it, and for me, I am a lover of data, so I would always want to interrogate the data, and I'm not more or less interested in the discussions, the conspiracy theories. I am more interested to what the data is saying. So the data is speaking to something. So there is something happening there. Why are people rejecting the PCs of the MPP in the central region, but they are voting for the presidential candidate? So that is the issue that I think, as a party, for now till date, they should have actually taken measures and steps to unearth and try to mitigate some of these intricacies, and not just the mere appointment of a leader who hails from the central region.
Indeed. So there's Lily,
Skirt
and blouse, yes. There's Lily Wills on Facebook who says, "Oh dear, I'm late." Lily Wills, you are not late. Nick Bako was rather late. So you are not late. I invite you to share our page on Facebook now that you have joined. And then there is also Lincoln, who has some worries he's expressing. Says that Galamsey has destroyed our water bodies. Today, Ghana Water Company is shedding water in Accra and across the country. As I speak, in Dansuman, water has not been flowing. I think he was saying flowing instead of following for almost a month. Water crisis is staring us at the face today, and the future is bleak for generations to come. Ghana, wake up, water crisis. Okay, so we will follow this water crisis situation here at Asase in our newsroom, and then we would bring you an update on it, Lincoln. Very, very important. Water is life, they say. Okay, so there is Hazard Nation who says boss all the way. I don't know which boss you are talking about. Maybe it is you. You are the boss who is all the way. So, Mr. Kwako, very much welcome to the forum today, and thank you as always for coming. And so you have been following the changes at the majority front. I remember your position when there was changes on the minority front. You were not so happy and enthused about it. Are you happy about the changes on the majority front? Are you listening on Facebook?
No, I was actually following, so I put it on my page so that my followers can follow.
There is a message for you on Facebook. Eunice Champoman says, Lily Wills, don't be like your uncle Nick Papo.
You see, I have been following we'll come to Baumia's new team and all that, right?
Yes, that's the next. Just after your comment, that's what we are going to.
So it's almost seems to be an evolution, you understand. Then I have said that the one thing I'm happy for the MPP for is the fact that they have had to deal with a transition question early. Transitions are difficult. If you look at the NDC time when we didn't know what will happen after Rawlings, in fact, the whole country and the world was wondering what will happen to Ghana the first question was, will Rawlings exit? And if he exits, who will take over and what will happen? So we had the Queen coming to make the Queen of England then, the late Elizabeth, in a speech in Parliament, signaling to Mr. Rawlings that when his tenure of office comes to an end, they look forward to seeing him in retirement. So there was a lot of international pressure and others, all gearing towards a smooth transition from a Rawlings-led Ghana of 19 years to a post-Rawlings era. We had the Kufuor era in terms of, so I'm looking at it from the political party point of view, that when you've had an incumbent and that incumbent is leaving, one, does the incumbent have a tendency to try and influence his succession? If he does, what is the impact on the party? So we've had the Rawlings example where he foisted or he proclaimed Atta Mills as a successor. And you saw Swedru declaration, and we saw the backlash. We saw what, yes, but NDC evolved, but it had serious implications for us. So the one good thing I think the NPP has done is they have had to deal with a transition issue early. They have a 60-year-old leader who, by our normal statistics now, even at 70, you are considered to be very prime in political age when it comes to taking on the leadership of the country. So long as you are in good health and you are physically strong, nothing, and mentally capable, nothing prevents you from aspiring. Even we have 78-year-olds, 79-year-olds aspiring. So for me, that is the good thing for the NPP. Clearly, it means that even in the event, you understand, and for me, I look at it clearly that they are likely to go into position. Even in the event of they going into position, they only have 4 years. And even they can start campaigning the very next day the election results are declared. What they are managing now, for me, is one, how to separate the candidate from the incumbent. It is a very, very difficult process. The examples are there. What it took for President Atta Mills to be able to separate himself from President Rawlings. Because remember the famous tag from our very good friend, your chairman, the poodle term, that Atta Mills was going to be the poodle of President Rawlings.
Which chairman are you talking about?
Oh, you're very good chairman. Our very good friend Gabi.
Okay.
Is known for the statement of the word poodle, the use of the term or the introduction of the term poodle in Ghana politics. Look at the strenuous efforts President Atta Mills had to take to distance himself from President. He even made things worse when he said he was going to consult former President 24 hours a day. Oh, that one, the people took it literally, you know. When we all knew that it wasn't possible for a human being to consult somebody for 24 hours. But you understand. It cost him a lot. He had to take pragmatic measures in order for him to be able to say that, look, I am separating myself from my former boss. I see the same issue with Vice President Bawumia. And I made the comment last week that, look, Vice President Bawumia, at least for those who are outside, keep hearing this story about who is actually in charge of the fiscal policy of Ghana. Look, when things are going, they say success has many fathers. Failure has few sons. Success, many fathers. When things were going well, when the economy was strong because of the borrowing of 3 billion, for me, I say, look, so long as the economy is strong, whether you are borrowing, whether you are injecting, whether you are subtracting, what it is that the economy is strong. Your reserves are there. Your forex rate is good. You take the price for it. But when it is bad, or when the economy goes south, you must take the fall. It's as simple as that. That is the law of politics. When the going is good, you take the credit. When the going is bad, you take the loss. But here is the case where, when things were good, there was a vice president who said that they had locked up the economic problems and had put the keys in the hands of the IGP. Now, when we went bankrupt, the country went bankrupt for the first time in our history.
Can a country go bankrupt?
Oh, the country is bankrupt. You can't pay your creditors. You are bankrupt. The only reason, let's not mince words. The only reason why we don't see riots and things on the streets is that because we are not paying our creditors, we are able to pay our salaries and things. If those monies are paid to our creditors, you will see riots on the streets of Accra because you don't have money. Look, your fiscal space is zero. The deficit overrun is over 100%. So it means that if you carry all your taxes, it's simple in simple lay terms. If we put all the taxes of Ghana every month into one basket and we paid off our debts, our just debts, there will be no money to pay salaries in this country.
Okay, so are you answering? Are you answering the question I asked about the minority, the majority changes? Because I don't see you answering that.
Relax. Give me a little time. I'm saying that, you see,
I don't think
It
we
is-
should
no,
encourage
no,
the
no,
use
no,
of the word riot.
No,
Or-
no, no, no.
what do you
That's- no,
think?
I'm saying that the only reason, I'm being speculative. The only
Okay.
reason why I'm not calling people to go around. I'm
Yeah.
saying that the only reason why you are not seeing some of the things you are seeing in other countries, upheavals and those things, is because you are not paying your creditors.
But is that not part of the governance? When
It
you
is
are,
not-
you are-
it
you
is
are-
not-
when
it
you are
is-
in struggle,
Listen,
you
it
find a
it
way out of the
listen,
struggle.
So
Yeah.
you see,
Mm.
my point is this: you have a vice president who is now struggling to put a distance between himself and his boss in terms of economic policy, in terms of governance, and so you can see, and I say it is an artificial separation. So what you are seeing is that you are seeing persons who are deemed to be the vice president's persons being put in certain places to show you that there is a shift in power. So, for example, the removal of the reshuffle, cabinet reshuffle. You cannot tell me that the people that have been put there now are not the people of the vice president. There is a certain semblance that, or at least it is being projected, that there is a certain transition ongoing.
are they normal the people of the MPP?
No, they are not. I'm not talking about it. I'm talking about who is now, whose vision is now being put in place. And if you look at the key persons, and if you look at the fact that, if you look at it, we'll come to his list and all that, you are seeing an evolution in leadership. The point is, the MPP is, it's not a bad thing. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, no. I'm saying that, at least from where I sit, I see a transition being made from the old to the new. But what I think, and from my observation, is that it is an artificial shift, because it is literally impossible for the sitting vice president to go out then, but his people are trying. His spokespersons, the MPP apparatus is trying to project a certain image that this driver's mate is a different person. He cannot be attached to the sins of the driver. We must give this new driver's mate an opportunity to be able to govern. And the example of his style is that you are seeing new faces in certain places. So you cannot tell me that the appointment of Afenyo Markin and other people is not a signal to us that there is a change in the MPP. But unfortunately for him, the political history of this country does not favor incumbents who are coming or riding on the back of bad or difficult, I'll say bad and difficult economic circumstances. It doesn't work, because the Ghanaian electorate does not make a distinction between the master and the driver's mate. The Ghanaian electorate sees you as one ticket. You will have to go into opposition, suffer at least 4 to 8 years of opposition.
Okay,
for
Nick,
you
can you answer
join
my
that
question?
opposition, I'm coming.
You have
For
been, you have been
I
speaking
have-
for like 10 minutes.
I have answered your
So
question.
there's a message here for you. It says that so somebody sends a message that I'm trying to read. George Japan says deviation pani.
Let's relax. I'm saying that. See, I'm saying that. Maybe you're not listening. I'm saying that. The Afenyo Markin appointment is a symptom of a larger thing. Do you understand? That larger thing is an attempt by the Dr. Bawumia team to project a certain new image, a certain new transition. I'm saying that from us, the NDC, it won't wash. Our duty as the NDC is to point to the Ghanaian electorate that this is now artificial. Whatever is going on is nothing new. It is camouflage. It is the same person. See, whether Dr. Bawumia likes it or not, until he goes into opposition and evolves and comes out with his own policies, suffers at least 8 years of opposition. Me, I've said it here that he has every chance of being president in this country, but not likely within the next 8, probably to 12 years. Why? Because the history of this country, I've told you, read the history. Every incumbent suffers the sins of every incumbent vice president suffers the sins of his incumbent president. So, in
the event that your predictions don't come in,
what will be
your reaction?
I'll come back and admit that. Then I got it wrong. But for me, from what I see, from what I'm seeing, and at least the history, the history of this republic hasn't changed.
Do you recall that your candidate John Mahama?
Yes.
Was once vice president. For
of course, and
and he stood elections in 2012.
Do you remember that we all agree at this table? And let's all be truthful to the historical facts. He served the second term of President Mills.
Yes.
Indeed,
I agree.
the 2012 election was literally a sympathy vote for President. Look, I used to think that President Mills was so demonized until I saw when the funeral, just before the funeral, I had a meeting in Kumasi, and I drove from Kumasi to Accra, joined I think it was the day of the funeral also. Every single beer bar, fitting stations, people actually were holding funerals in the honor of President Mills. And I asked somebody, hey, so Ghana, you actually really loved President Mills that much? And at a certain point, President Mills was so demonized during 20. In fact, President Mills was literally like, he was sick, he's not well. Every negative thing you can think about was said about this man in 2012. But when he died, this country came to a standstill. And so, President Mills, if you are being honest to the facts, John Mahama's first real test was the 2016 election as a candidate proper. And he lost. He has been in opposition for it. Now he's a stronger person. He's a stronger candidate. Because, you see, the thing about opposition is that it allows you to evolve. It allows you to be your own person. You see, the thing about loss of power is that all the sycophants disappear around you. You can ask President Nana Addo, he will tell you, I'm sure, that when you lose an election, that is when you really see your true friends and your and your lovers. Because nobody likes defeat. I'm sure for the first few days or weeks after the defeat, you can count the number of people that come and visit you. So you see, the attraction of power, everybody wants to be part and parcel of the seat of power. Let him lose today. Let the vice president lose. Go into opposition. Fight people like what is his name?
Kennedy
Agyapong. Win a primary against Kennedy Agyapong on the strength of the fact that he's a sitting opposition person. Come back, and I can tell you that it will only make him better.
The argument you are making is making it seem like the Ghanaians should totally forget about former President Mahama's time in office for that 4-year period he exercised executive authority. You are saying that it should be just discarded.
No. I'm saying that is why Ghanaians were unforgiving in 2016. Because
and unforgiving in 2020. But will be forgiven in 2024.
2020 clearly was a better verdict on the performance of Mahama. 2016 was a massive rejection. Over a million, almost a million votes. It was unprecedented.
2020 was over 500,000.
2020, and you ask the people who are close to President Nana Addo, he spent half of the time in Ashanti region. He knew that his popularity and things were coming down, but it wasn't as bad as today. Let President Nana Addo, if he had the opportunity to stand today, ask him whether he will stand again. He will lose miserably. He will lose miserably because he wrote on one of the most significant social intervention policies ever in the history of this country, which was free SHS. The NDC paid a very big price for opposing that policy.
Okay.
You understand?
So you haven't answered the question.
My point is this, and maybe you still don't understand what I'm saying.
I understand what you're saying that
Afenyo Markin's appointment. If you ask me to say Afenyo Markin's appointment as majority leader, obviously Afenyo Markin has risen through the ranks. There is nothing. It's not an extraordinary news that Afenyo Markin is majority leader.
But you are seeing a systematic effort.
There's a change. There's a change of guard. You can see the ministers that are coming are people that literally are have not been at the center stage of the politics of the Nana Addo presidency. There's an attempt to tell you that if you give me an opportunity, and I think that is the message that perhaps the MPP and even President Nana Addo must be congratulated, because the man has declared openly that he doesn't believe in cabinet reshuffle, and he has been consistent with it. His ministers have been at post for long periods. He doesn't believe in it. But for him to agree that, look, there must be a shift, he must have gone into deep reflection to realize that he will be doing his vice president a disservice if he doesn't seem to see, if Ghanaians don't think that there is a certain shift in the direction of governance and policy in this country.
Okay, so your point is very perfectly made, I believe now. I think the point is made now. There was
but we the NDC are saying that nothing new has happened. It is an artificial shift.
Okay. Okay.
You are selling a bad product.
And the NDC is selling a very good product.
NDC is selling a product. You see, the difference between Dr. Bawumia and I'm saying that, I repeat, Dr. Bawumia himself as a person is not a bad candidate. But it's just unfortunate that he has to go through the mail of opposition and show that he was not literally thrust forward as an incumbent or as an anointed.
So former President Mahama became president, and then after that went into opposition,
yes,
like you are saying, and now he wants to come back to become president
now he's running
for 1 term.
Now he's running, and that's the sad story, or that's the unfortunate story of President Mahama, that he had to inherit. Listen, he had to inherit the problems of Atta Mills as president. You understand? He did his best.
But he was then the vice president.
No, he was the vice
You
president.
are hanging the vice president now and saying that, no, you're hanging the vice president.
And
You're
I'm saying that he paid for that. He paid CEO. He paid for the sins, you understand, or the load, the unfortunate things that happened in them. Because Dumso, for example, was an inherited problem.
Okay.
It wasn't a creation of President Mahama, but he had to suffer for it. I'm telling you that as for Ghanaians, they don't